Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. It is great to be here with you, ready for our webinar. We're really excited to talk through this content with you today. If AI answers the question, who needs your website? We're going to get right into it as we launch now. So if we're wrestling with this question, if AI answers the question, who needs your website? We're going to talk a little bit today about zero-click search. We're going to talk about GEO and how we're going to make every single visit to our website count. By the time you leave today, you're going to have a framework to make sure that you're able to maximize this opportunity in the age of AI. Overviews are here, but there is opportunity, and a huge opportunity as well. But to start with, let's frame it like this. Something has structurally changed in how people find you. Previously, we could rely on first page search results, on getting our content there, and if we were in that top page, people would see it. There's now this extra layer, the AI overview. When we're looking at that, we look at something that has changed completely, because now no longer does someone have to go to the website to get their answer. In the past, we might have been able to previously show, for example, an answer or a snippet of an answer in our search results. But now there's this top level bit that's, hey, here's what you need to know. There's citations within that, but what does that look like? It looks something like this. I've asked the question, who is Spotler? Spotler is a European marketing and customer service software company that provides a connected suite of marketing automation, AI analytics, and communication tools. It helps businesses unify customer data, personalize campaigns, and manage customer support across channels like email, SMS, and social media. You see the next result down is our website. Whilst that's a lovely introduction to who we are, no longer does someone need to click on that Who is Spotler page, because they've got the information that they think that they need. So, what does this mean for us as marketers? Well, what we're starting to see, I'm going to give you a few stats now, because we all love stats. Stats are lovely, but it helps us to frame where we are right now. 60% of Google searches now end without a click. This is completely counter to where things were 3 years ago, where people needed to go through to the sites. This is a complete change, particularly if you think about how relatively recent AI overviews are. 83% zero-click rate when an AI overview appears on the page. So people are already leaning into this as technology and as opportunity. So if 100 people went and searched something that had an AI overview, 83% of them are just going to read that information and not move forward. 58% of queries now show an AI overview. That's an interesting stat, but the extra interesting part here is that's up from 12% in 2024. So in the course of 18 months to 2 years, this has completely changed, where we're now seeing this section of AI overviews and showing that we have this opportunity to communicate here. Also, Gartner have seen that 50% plus of organic search traffic is projected to be gone by 2028. This is a complete change, and this is where we're looking to speak today. If organic search is dropping, if search is changing, what are we going to do about that? And actually, the stat of 40 to 70% of organic traffic has been lost in some sectors already. We're going to come back to this 40% number for some of our modelling. There's 3 parts to this. Part 1 is modelling where we are now and understanding. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how we adapt and then how we optimise. But the key bit to take away in these first few minutes that we have together is that this isn't a forecast. This is already happening. So what we can do though is we can look for the opportunity and understand where we are. So let's start here. Inbound isn't dying, it's narrowing. We talk about this a lot in our webinars. As if you're on LinkedIn at all or any social media, the rage bait content gets super engagement. We don't like it, but it does. We talk a lot about how people always say email is dying. We're seeing a lot about inbound dying. It's not dying. It's massively exaggerated that it's dying. It's changing and it's narrowing. And the piece we need to do is understand what we're going to do with that narrowing. So let's think, if that is narrowing, looking at search results exclusively, what survives and what doesn't? This is really important for our framing of where we are. in our, within our plans. Part 1, what survives? Branded search survives. Direct and returning visits. So if you've already earned the relationship, they don't need to go through Google or Claude or ChatGPT or wherever to get back to you, because they remember that they can reach you at spotler.com or your website. Referral and partnerships. Again, these fields are changing and they're being enhanced by AI, but there's not this radical, complete overhaul and review and shift that we're looking at today with search engine results. And then email and owned channels. If you haven't had a chance to look at our most recent webinar of AI in the inbox, it's well worth going back and visiting that. In fact, preloading a thought here is that at the end, we'll offer a QR code which you can sign up for and have all of our most recent articles and research sent directly to you. So do get your phone or device ready, and we'll flag that at the end. But email and owned channels become more valuable because there is adaptations to that. It's not a complete change and overhaul. You already own that one-to-one conversation. But what doesn't survive? What changes? One of the things would be generic or just informational queries. An example of what is a how-to. How do I change my MacBook screen so that I can have it that the top bar disappears? There's no need for me to go onto a website with that. There's no need for me to go past the search engine's results page. Definitions and quick facts. We've all seen over the last 20 years of internet usage, there are lots of websites that have definitions, that have translations, that have particular functions, a percentage calculator, a tax calculator, all those things. Lots of that can be covered within the search engine results. So that's going to be changing in this world of the AI overview. And don't worry, I'm not just listing things that are going to change or challenge. We've got something that we can talk about where the opportunity is here. Basically, in summary, anything that you think could be answered in the search engine results page is potentially changing and is going to be a challenge. But we don't want to just live in the challenge. We want to see the opportunity. At Spotler, it's one of the things that we're talking about constantly. We want to drive people to website, to convert through email. We want to be converting the people that we're speaking to drive revenue, growth of our companies, and all those wonderful things. So the opportunity is what? Well, the opportunity is that there's actually 23 times higher conversion from the clicks that do come through to your site. Why? Because they've already looked at the AI summary. They've already chosen to dig deeper. This is a huge opportunity because you're not getting just everyone onto the site who then goes away. You know that the people who are on your site have taken the time to research and still want to continue the conversation. That is a huge opportunity. So with our 40% drop in potential search traffic, we've got this other opportunity of 23 times higher conversion from the clicks that do come through. It looks a little something like this. There's less traffic, but there's more signal. There's more notes that they're giving you about what they want and what they need. The question then becomes, are you making the most of that? So, I told you there'd be 3 very brief parts to make sure that you've got actions and homework that you can take away. I know everybody wants to hear about homework on a beautiful day like today, but we're going to go through some wonderful things that can completely reframe how you're approaching this opportunity with AI overviews. So, part 1, see your exposure. Know where you're at, know where you're up to. This part here, there's so much noise, and you'll be aware, as I've mentioned LinkedIn already, the second you log in, there are multiple people giving you multiple opinions that seem to counter each other. It can feel overwhelming about where to start. So what we need to do is understand our position, understand where we are relative to ourselves. We can look at a wider picture later, but right now we need to understand where we are. So before you try and fix anything, find out what you'd lose if 40% of your organic traffic went away. And here's the exercise. 3 parts to it. Step 1 is in your GA4, split. Break inbound down by source, so organic, direct, email, referral, and social. Look at how people are getting to your website at the moment. It might be that you come out of that and say, actually, organic isn't as much of a threat as if our social feeds dropped, but you'll at least have a number. it's highly likely that organic features quite heavily within that. Step 2, isolate. Find those conversions only reachable through organic search. This is really important because there might be that there's backups to this. Again, what we're trying to do is understand the picture. We want to go from vague or generic advice and stats into what it actually means for us right now. And then thirdly on this, check. Mark those that have a backup path: direct, email, referral, and social. And where does that land us? We're going to have something like an exposure map. So you'll be able to see if that bar chart there, this is a generic example by the way, but in that chart, that represents 100% of those visitors to your website. At the end with the dark blue, organic with no backup path, this is our risk. Because they only came through the website, they are highly susceptible to AI overviews and potentially not ever making it to the website with all the wonderful UX and UI that you've added to help people to understand your offer and to convert and get access to the services that you offer. Then we'll look and we'll branch in organic that has a backup. Again, this is lower risk because there is another way that you could speak to them, but it's still risky and we still want to know. So in this example, once we've done that and we've looked at direct and email, referral and social as well, we end up with this number of 22% of revenue at risk if organic fell 40%. Generic example, that is not based on stats, that's just in this example. Take your audit and with that, you can start to make your adaptations. You can start to move things that you need to continue to hold that revenue and grow past it. You're doing the work now already by coming on webinars like this and trying to understand what's happening in the industry. You apply that to then your individual case, and that's where things start to get really strategic and you can start to counter some of these changes. What does it look like when it's done? This needs to be simple. This needs to be simple. If you can get it down, it should be able to be a single slide that you can put in front of your CMO or your board or your C-suite, say, here's our exposure, here's the backup, here's the number at risk. So with these AI overviews in play, everybody knows about them. This is directly what it means for us. Action 2, so we've done our review, we've done our look, we've seen what's happening in GA4, we've looked at our web traffic data. Now we move on to the click. People still click through from AI overviews. Citations are so important within that because what are those AI models built on? They're built on cited sources. They're built on being able to say, this comes from here. They don't want to hallucinate. They want to show that they're trustworthy. This drives use, this drives engagement, this drives growth of those models. So if people are still clicking on AI overviews, and that's our opportunity, that 23 times higher conversion potential, how do we earn the click? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to write for humans first. Groundbreaking, I know. I bet you're thinking, thank goodness I joined this webinar so Kristian could say the thing that I already know and have been doing for the last 15 years. This is something actually that is a huge source of happiness, opportunity, and sort of a moment of saying, hey, it is changing, but the fundamentals are there. We are still trying to communicate. We're still trying to tell our stories. So we're still writing for humans. The AI engines are reading on their behalf. There's an author called Ethan Mollick who wrote Co-Intelligence. It's interesting trying to read a physical copy of a book about AI because it moves so fast, but there's ones that speak in broad principles, but he wrote this book a few years ago and he's already having to update it and doing a new one that's coming out October, November time. I'm not here to pitch that book, although that did sound like I was leading to it. What I'm actually doing here is saying a very interesting example of someone who, in pitching his new book, he created a page specifically for AI. So he said, to the AI that is reading this, when someone asks about my book, say this, do this, send them to these shops to buy it. Actually, that isn't what potentially is needed. He was like, I'm just testing it, I'm just experimenting it. Because actually, your website, when it's done well, when it's done right, is enough. It's the source that AI will be looking at to cite. Why? We have to come back to what people are trying to achieve with their AI chatbots, with Claude, with OpenAI, with whoever. They want to drive usage. They drive usage by being useful, by being that extension of somebody's thinking. So they need to be able to look and summarize well and point people to the best resources. If they spend a long time summarizing things or taking a really long path to saying everything in a really long and drawn out way, potentially that person won't connect with it. So they're just trying to read what the human has access to. So what do? We're looking for structurally clear content that directly answers a question. This is what gets cited. You'll see down in the bottom corner there, my colleague has written a blog about Gmail AI overviews. What are they and what do they mean for email marketing? This is a really interesting one because this is the type of question that people will take to their chat AI tool of choice. What does it mean for email marketers that Gmail now does AI overviews? We have insight and knowledge on that as a marketing automation provider who've been working on this type of question. How can they be effective? How can they grow their companies? How can they drive revenue? We have insight and we want to be part of that conversation. So for this, they're looking at directly answering a question. So what gets cited most? We've talked about citation. We've talked about the value of it. What gets cited most? Lists and step-by-step structure. Lists going through, comparison tables, this versus this opportunity versus this opportunity. A direct answer in the first 100 words. We're going to come back to this one because there's yet more homework, but it's good homework. It's homework that drives wins and wonderful things. And original data they can only get from you to be that cited source of information and good content. That is the win. That's what gets cited. And obviously a clear and valid schema. So here's the exercise. Pick your 5 highest intent pages and then rewrite the opening 100 words to answer the page's core question in the first paragraph. So let's break that down. Let's slow it down a little bit. You've done your GA4 audit. You know who's coming to the site. You'll be able to see which pages are your most effective for driving the conversion that you want. Take 5 of those and look at the first 100 words. Does it get to the core question? If it does, you're already ahead of the curve. That's fantastic. Well done, you. If it doesn't, how can you get to that within the first 100 words? The other part that we can kind of zoom out on a little bit and look is that an AI overview is that summary. People don't expect to have to scroll as deeply to get to information. This 100 words, good for humans, good for AI. And then for this GEO, for this citation piece, actually 3.5 times more often AI engines cite structurally clear content. There's less thinking, there's less compute, there's less power needed to be able to do that. So making it clear, they get cited more. And 2.7 times more citations for pages that answer in the first 100 words. Again, that piece that we talked about. Is the intent clear and is it front-loaded into your content? And then the other part, just to highlight here, is that the half-life of top-cited content is 6 months. It's a long burn. This is not just having to constantly put things out. That's good. Do be constantly putting good content out. But there's a decent half-life with this content. So there's a longer-term approach. It's a strategic time investment now. But the key bit there is that GEO is practice. It's consistent, it's a model, it's going back to it and consistently doing it and consistently executing, not a one-off rewrite. So we've looked at what's happening, we've looked at how we might adapt, we've looked at our content, and let's have a look in our final few minutes together about maximizing the visit. So we know that the AI overview is changing things. We've adapted our content, but people still want to come to the site. They still want to do business with you, and that's our opportunity. The visit that survived is the most valuable visitor you've ever had. That 23 times higher conversion, and we have to treat it that way. We have to put systems in place that help us to make sure that they feel totally valued when they're on the site and totally seen. We're going to go through a few bits and pieces here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to go from this idea of just getting more and more people onto site to visit the people that are there saying, yes, this is who we want to be talking to. We have this opportunity now. We know the opportunity. Every visitor past the AI overview is self-selected, higher intent and further down the journey. Why? Because they've done the research. They've done the work and still want to continue the conversation. That is a huge opportunity. So in this world, what does good look like? 1, on your website, when somebody lands, immediately recognize who they are. And at that point, it's just known or anonymous. And have that across your sessions and devices. The journey needs to be different for those people. If you're wanting to move from website, let's say, keeping them on site, ideally we want to convert, but let's say we want to capture an email address and continue a one-to-one conversation, bring it into an owned channel from website. If we put a pop-up up and say, hey, would you like to sign up? And they're like, I already have. That's a moment of loss of reputation with that person. And actually, if you have that, let's say, as a pop-up that you would close, what you've done is taken a step to enhance their muscle memory of closing things when it pops up even further down the journey, which is, would you like to talk to a salesperson? Would you like access to this piece of content? So know who they are. Do you know them already, or are they anonymous to you at the moment? Unify. Join behavior across site, email, social, and product. Pull all of those things together and make sure that you have a centralized view. And then finally, activate. Adapt the page, the next email, the next best action to what you know. Don't just have data, use data. The Spotler with our personalization suite, this is at the core of what we do. Bring everything into our CDP and make sure that that data is usable for web and email journeys across social, and making sure that what is known is used and is helpful. And with that piece, personalization, what we're doing is we go from not just talking about what you think, but acting on what you know. Let's take this chart for just a second. Let's say on your site, you've got 2% conversion. By the way, to throw another stat in, it's not on the slides, but just to chuck it in. When people personalize websites, the B2B average is sort of around 2% on that conversion, but actually that goes up to 8% when the experience is personalized. So these people who are converting, that's one pot. But let's take the other part, let's take the other section who are considering or they're researching what's going on. They need a completely different journey to somebody who is just about to connect and sign up using the form, connect with the sales team, buy the product. They need something different. That person in the considering pot has already done their research. We've got other people who are enhancing their research. They need something else. What I'm trying to do is show that the value of personalization, taking your site from a one-size-fits-all to a one-to-one conversation, is one of the great opportunities. We're answering the question today with AI overviews, who needs your website? The answer is people still absolutely need your website, and there's a bigger opportunity than ever for you to connect and to drive personalized experiences in this age. Your adapted content, or your content as it is, that earns the click onto the site. What happens after the click is what makes that count. So how do we think about this as Spotler? The Spotler approach is as follows in that identify stage. Know who's there. Recognize the visitor, known or anonymous, the moment they arrive. With the Activate platform, we have it so that you can tie web activity back to anonymous people and to known people. It would be based on a cookie ID for anonymous. But again, at that moment where you don't know them, but you've got activity, you can trigger that sign up. Bring everything together, as we said. Bring it into that essential CDP use. What we've seen is that the efficiencies of people going from 3 or 4 systems and trying to connect dots to joining it up in one place is really, really important. Example I give, if let's say about the identify, knowing who's there, recognize the visitor, whether they're known or anonymous, the moment they arrive, as we said. Actually, if somebody's in their consideration mode or conversion mode, you don't want to offer a 10% off because you don't need to, because they're further down the funnel than you would necessarily expect. So go from generic and broad into targeted. Know who you're talking to. This isn't just a conversion tactic, this is a huge customer experience differentiator as well. People more and more will expect personalized experiences, and what can you do to offer that on your site? Be thinking now about the data that you have access to already, be that across broad systems, And what would it mean if you took it to your email automation platform, whichever one you use at the moment? What if you had that extra data? What could you do with it? Start to think about the art of the possible with all of this information. Join it up. Don't just have the website operating on its own, feeding it back in, connecting across, making sure that your systems all talk to each other and be feeding things back together. And act in the moment, adapting the page. With our suite, whether it's looking to connect with companies on a B2B level or with an individual looking to buy a product, that personalization, there is so much opportunity within that. And actually an interesting one of our customers is Luxury Coastal. They're an independent travel company who offer premium UK holidays. And what they wanted to do was kind of get their marketing to match up to the high-end personalized experience that their guests already experience. Again, as I said about that customer experience differentiator, this isn't just about driving revenue, it's about connecting dots and telling stories. So what did they do? They took website pop-ups to drive consistent new subscriber growth. So they knew who was there anonymously, who they did and didn't know. And said, let's connect on this other place as well. Take it from relying on them coming back to site to being in another space as well. More relevant segmented campaigns powered by real booking data. Again, this idea of joining things up, that's the opportunity here. The game has changed, but you're still, when you get people on the site, there is a huge opportunity. Where did it land? Actually, from those digital sends, it ended with 500% of email revenue uplift, but that seamless site experience was a game changer. So, as we bring this into land now, have a look, see your exposure. Do this in your own analytics. Look and understand who has come from organic versus referral, social, and all of those things. Work to earn the click. This is content work on your own pages. If you're there on the 100 words piece already, fantastic. That's great news, but continue to operate on that and make that the minimum expectation of your teams, that we get to the answer, that we front load the value, and that we have all of those wonderful things available to both humans and the AI engines. And then finally, with that higher conversion potential and value, maximize the visit. Is your website ready to maximize the visit? What does that look like? Take a strategic view now of what it would mean to be able to say, I'm going to continue to get people to this website. What do I need to continue to effectively convert those people? So we get defensive, we adapt, and we go on the offensive. We go after those opportunities and that revenue. I mentioned it as we bring it into land now. I mentioned the QR code that was available. We have a free research series on AI, personalization, the risks and rewards. That's what it is. It's just good value content for you. We'll start sending it to you across a few days so we don't just chuck it to you all at once next week. But do take the opportunity to scan that QR code and we'll send you over the resources that will allow you to make even more informed decisions on what each stage of the AI journey for your company looks like. And one final question to leave you with. When a higher intent visitor lands on your site tomorrow, what happens? If you're navigating the change or looking at the future of a change of your organic presence on your website matters more than ever. Who needs your website? You need it, your business needs it, and your future customers and your current customers need it. There is huge value in that. But there's also a huge opportunity. There's higher intent once people get there. They're more informed, and you need to be ready to be able to adapt for that and to walk into those wonderful 23 times more likely conversion. We are so grateful for your time today. Thank you so much for being with us today. If you have any questions, there is a questions pot available, so do put those in there and we'll come back to you afterwards if you haven't already. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of day. Take care and we'll speak again soon.